Welcome back. I am currently Welcome back, and today we'll be reacting to Could You Survive 24 Hours in a WW1 Trench by Survive History. And without further ado, let's go. This guy is awesome.
Imagine being dropped into one of history's most brutal conflicts.
Whoops.
Into the trenches of the Western Front during World War I.
Pew pew pew.
Could you survive for just 24 hours?
Probably not.
It's now 12.
Wait a minute. I just realized something. Okay, no, it was working.
30.
I have something that lowers the sound automatically, so I was wondering if it was working or not, but I think it was.
Cold autumn day in 1917. And I'm reporting for duty in a British frontline trench.
Ooh. Nice fur coat.
I won't be coming out until this time
Oh yeah, and it did so for 4 years. It's insane.
tomorrow. I'm going to be eating, working and sleeping like a First World War soldier.
In this episode, I'll find myself in a meticulously reconstructed trench network at the Centre for Experimental Military Archaeology to see if I can cut it as a British Tommy. I'll be dug in alongside the Warwick's 14 to 18 Living History Group, while facing us across no man's land are the German troops of Sturmbataillon 10.
Ooh.
Using a range of contemporary sources and a little hands-on experience, we'll try to piece
Is that for
together
trench foot?
what life in the trenches was like from the perspective of ordinary soldiers.
Yeah, you do not stick your head out.
Important.
Ironically enough, I think when they actually got helmets, people were more confident, so they stuck out their head more, so they got more injured of head wounds, I think.
To keep your head down at all times. How short periods of backbreaking work were combined with long periods of intense boredom.
Yeah, I've heard also that war is apparently just 90% being bored as fuck, and 10% fearing for your life.
It's the middle of the night, about 2 a.m, and I'm back on sentry duty for the next hour.
What it was like to spend a sleepless night so close to the enemy,
Pretty grim.
and just how likely it was that you'd make it out alive.
Uh-oh. Wow.
Welcome to Survive History, guys. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. On this channel, we've experienced ourselves that just about everything was a bigger struggle in the past. But sitting down at a desk all day, that is a uniquely modern problem.
Oh.
That's why I'm using the
Sponsorship time.
E7 Pro
Ooh.
desk. Getting up on your feet during the working day is great for your health, so I like to work upright as often
Must
as I
cost a
can.
fortune, though.
The quality is fantastic. You can choose from loads of different desktop colors and materials. I went for this dark plywood with the black frame. It even has a really handy cable management design to keep all your wires organized.
I would need cable management for
and
sure.
out of sight. It's also incredibly stable. You can lift just about anything here without a single wobble, thanks to its sturdy design and unique motor. It can handle a massive 440 pounds of static load.
The way he's looking at me is creepy.
For some reason, I needed it to. They're also running a massive sale right now, so use my personal code
You're running the YouTube sale, right?
YTE730 for an extra $30 off. If you're on a tighter budget, you can check out the E7 standard model. Now, let's get back to the Western Front. Let's rewind a little to the moments just before my unit marches off for its stint in the trench. While I get to know the men I'll be serving alongside and get to grips with the baffling...
Wait, hang on. Did I hear a doorbell? Hang on, my meds came. Including my injection med, which I have to put in the fridge. So hang on. Let's continue.
Array of British Army equipment, here's a little context for what was happening in late 1917. Trenches had developed from waterlogged holes early in the war to a sophisticated and largely self-sufficient network of fighting positions, living quarters, workshops and communication
workshops? They had workshops in there? Ooh. I knew about like the living spaces, but never about the workshops. Wonder what they made there. Also, I'm a maid again, okay.
With the battle lines barely shifting despite 3 years of fighting, the British, French and Germans had had plenty of time to improve the design of trenches and the daily routine of soldiers living in them. Nevertheless, this environment was still uncomfortable, dirty and highly dangerous.
I heard that German trenches were better, but I don't exactly know if that was... I think it's because they used cement in their bunkers or something, or trenches, I don't know.
As I'll soon discover, there were many things beyond German bombs and bullets that could do you harm. Recognising the need to rotate troops regularly, British soldiers were only expected to serve in the front line for a few days at a time, and I only had to last 24 hours. It was almost time to start the clock. Whether you were a long-serving veteran or a new recruit, marching up to the frontline trenches was a hair-raising business.
No shit.
The movement of large numbers of men would inevitably draw enemy fire, so it was safer to conduct the relief of trench garrisons at night. Unfortunately for us, we'd be heading in during broad daylight.
Uh-oh.
Travelling across open ground to reach the rear of the trench network, it was a brisk walk until we reached the comparable safety of the woods. As a quick aside, although we rarely see images of World War I trenches running through thick woodland, they certainly did.
Oh!
Artillery bombardments obliterated forests in sectors experiencing heavy fighting, but the initial presence of trees and
there's notifications. Oh well, whatever.
Undergrowth shaped how troops fought and dug in. Some forests would even become fierce battlegrounds. When you were out of the woods, so to speak, and safely below ground level, there were more challenges to negotiate. You could easily get lost in the warren of reserves, and communication trenches with only...
Wood trench? What is a wood trench? I mean, is it just because it's made out of wood or what?
Makeshift street signs and questionable maps to guide you to your destination.
Questionable maps? Oh no.
Often in pitch darkness.
On first entering the trenches, one is irresistibly reminded of the burrow in Wonderland, down which little Alice followed the rabbit. We stumbled along for, as it seems, an indeterminable period, tripping over ourselves in the dark and the mud, and no matter how desperately we strive to catch up, the back of the man in front is always just on the point of disappearing round the corner.
When you finally reach the correct section of the line...
Wait, hang on.
When you finally reach
the
correct...
Wait, what is that bullet type?
Section of the...
Fuck. Ah! Well, anyway.
And questionable maps to guide you...
The land seems always...
When you finally reach the correct section of the line,
looks like a screwdriver.
Officers would take a detailed inventory from the outgoing troops.
Ooh, what is
They'd
this?
also want to gather as much information as possible to understand what they were facing across no man's land.
Wait, hang on, I kind of missed that part. Oops. God damn it. There you go.
When you finally reached the correct section of the line, officers would take a detailed inventory from the outgoing troops. They'd also want...
Hang on, my mom is... Thank you to follow. Thank you, thank you. Okay. Ah! Fuck. Of course. I'm perfectly fine and I dropped my phone on my keyboard. Okay.
to gather as much information as possible to understand what they were facing across no man's land.
Fuck.
Naturally, however, the soldiers about to exit the trenches didn't want to hang around.
Jesus. Did I drink wine again? Not yet. What is going on? Oh, it's the fucking macros. Okay, I think everything's fine.
I think you can do that in some of your chaps are providing carrying copies for us, aren't they?
Now it was up to our small unit to keep an aggressive enemy at bay. A 10-man section, usually commanded by a corporal, was the basic unit of the British Army at this time, and they'd defend a sector of trench around 30 yards in length. That was quite roomy. Troops weren't
there you go.
packed shoulder to shoulder in the trenches unless a major attack was imminent.
Hello. Wait. What? Oh, wait. What? Oh, yes, that's for someone else.
Since this would be home until lunchtime tomorrow,
That's because someone has an issue with their phone and they can't type in chat, so I made that for them.
I was keen
Okay, I need
60 yards at this time. Usually commanded by a corporal, was the basic unit of the British Army at this time, and they'd defend a sector of trench around 30 yards in length.
Okay.
That was quite roomy. Troops weren't packed shoulder to shoulder in the trenches unless a major attack was imminent. Since this would be home until lunchtime tomorrow, I was keen to get the measure of
I did tell them
understanding.
to get a new account, but they don't want to. they just don't want to. And they also don't want to provide their phone number, apparently. Which is fair.
Standard trench dimensions had been laid out a few years before the war. The idea was that the thoroughfare was wide enough for a stretcher team to pass through without interfering with the man on the firing step.
Fair enough.
Trenches weren't constructed in perfectly straight lines, but were designed with regular corners and traverses.
Yeah.
In the case of a direct hit, this would contain the blast damage from enemy shells to a smaller area, and prevent them firing right along the line if they actually got inside. I was hoping that wouldn't happen. Until late in the war, army doctrine was that trenches under attack were to be defended to the last man.
Oh, that is bad. Well,
The distance between the fire step and the elbow rest was meant to be 4 feet 6 inches, which just shows how small the average soldier was at the time. In fact, a typical British Tommy was about 5'5".
oh, that's shorter than me. Ah! Luffy Jr. 2.0 is mobile and awake. Oh, no.
It seemed the Germans weren't interested in letting me finish my lines. This was my first warning to keep my head down. Our entry into the trenches had clearly been noticed, and the enemy had organised a welcome party.
For once, I'm not as smart as, yeah.
In places we're only about 20 yards away from Fritz and company. Consequently, all times the air is pretty thick with bombs, grenades and trench mortars. These last are pretty hellish sorts of toys. They have an explosion like about 10 earthquakes rolled into one.
So, they're just trying to dominate us on the basis they know. Well, they probably know.
What is this?
They've just had an exchange.
This was all rather nerve-wracking. Time to find the toilet.
Oh, no.
All right, time to see the bathroom. Okay. Pretty basic.
No shit.
So different latrine systems were used throughout the war, some involving pits and others using buckets like this one. Designated orderlies had the unenviable task of emptying these regularly, and it's unsurprising that being put onto sanitary duties
Oh, shit.
was used as a common punishment.
Ah, why are you showing inside?
One you needed, things were a little more relaxed. There were strict rules against
Wait, what did it say?
indiscriminately,
Fuck.
but going in a tin and if it was just a number 1 you needed, things were a little more relaxed. There were strict rules against urinating indiscriminately, but going in a tin and throwing it out over no man's land was quite common.
Ah,
as
okay,
long
yeah.
as an officer wasn't looking. While soldiers weren't typically packed into the trench like sardines, I was learning that moving around laden with gear still wasn't easy. It's why troops left many bulky items behind when they entered the front line.
Friday rations.
Since it was only essentials I was supposedly carrying, I wanted to know how they were going to keep me alive. I need a rundown from someone who knew what they were
Oh,
doing
wait.
to keep me alive.
That thing, I think a guy at one of my secondary schools once got a can like that from 1915 U.S. Army. They brought it to school. It was really nice.
I need a rundown from someone who knew what they were talking about.
So we've got you dressed in the basic infantryman's kit for 24 hours in the trench. You've got webbing equipment, you've got the service dress uniform, helmet and small box respirator. So the webbing equipment you've got will hold...
Wait, I'm sorry. I just realized I didn't understand what they were talking about. Oh, we were talking about the toilet.
I need a rundown from someone who knew what they were. Since it was only essentials I was supposedly carrying, I wanted to know how they were going to keep me alive.
Okay, yeah.
I need a rundown.
So we've got you dressed in the basic infantryman's kit for 24 hours in the trench. You've got webbing equipment, you've got the service dress uniform, helmet and small box respirator. So the webbing equipment you've got will hold the ammunition in the pouches for your rifle. You've got a water bottle with 2 pints on your hip.
Yep.
Your bayonet is on your left hip,
Nice.
along with an entrenching tool handle that you can dig a small shell scrape, or you could cook on the pan head as well. So
What is that? That's the first time I see
for
this.
example, when we do bacon, we might stick this in the side of the trench. You can use it as a small frying pan as well.
Ooh.
Digging very important for
Digging is very
these
important,
soldiers.
yeah. And we use full-size shovels to do bigger work because they're quite small.
Yeah.
You also have a mess tin as well, and there live your maybe things for making cups of tea, emergency rations in there. You can also take hot rations when they're brought forward by carrying parties. You can use that as a mug. Put your main ration in the main part of the pan there.
Got it.
On your back then, we've taken off your haversack, and your haversack is just the bare essentials to survive for 24 hours. Okay, so it's quite a small bag, but we've got a waterproof sheet, which you can either lay on or wrap around yourself if it rains.
That's what it is. Okay. I know this famous picture. Well, famous. It's one of the most recognizable pictures of trenches, I believe.
In the bag itself, we've got
At least I saw it everywhere.
towel and basic
What is that?
hygiene equipment. So
Tooth powder.
maybe a toothbrush, soap,
Okay.
Think so.
shaving brush, shaving soap, and a cutthroat razor. So it's important to shave daily if we can to make sure the respirator gives a good seal around your face.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, yeah.
Knife, fork, and a spoon, a comb to make sure your hair's brushed, and a small sewing kit so you can do any repairs to your uniform. So that's the essential part, and they say the respirator on your chest is going to be very important. So
No
you
shit.
might get a gas attack while in the trench today, and we've practiced the drill before we came down, so you know what to do with that.
I should have been paying more attention during training. Better ask for another run through.
So Sean, if someone shouts gas, presumably I'm throwing my helmet off first of all so I can get this thing on, is that right?
Yeah, so on the command gas, 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 or you hear the bell ring, you take the helmet off, place it on a clean surface, take the mask out of the bag,
That sounds time consuming.
Okay.
and then force your chin into the mask itself, and then pull the harness over your head. Okay, there's a
I
mouth
think those things were also deadly because they had asbestos, I believe, in it.
in there. You'd put your
So
mouth
like
on.
you'd survive. So like you'd survive, but like maybe 20 years later you'd get lung cancer or something, I think.
Yeah.
Bite onto it.
That's it.
And
yeah.
then once you're happy the mask is on, you put your helmet back on to give you protection from any shrapnel that may come in overhead.
Okay.
Superb.
Like so.
Yeah, I can imagine.
That's the image of the First World War, isn't it? Man with gas mask and helmet.
Although I don't think he put it on
Gas
properly.
attacks.
It depends. A lot of the early gas attacks depend on the wind direction to blow clouds of gas from
That is true, yeah.
enemy lines to our lines. And as the war progresses, it can put into artillery shells. So we may get bombarded every day. We may not get bombarded at all. And again, we may put attacks into the Germans under gas as well as the war progresses. To in the later stages of the war, we may put our own gas attacks in there.
Okay, so that's going to be quite important
Yep.
for protecting ourselves. On the offence,
I remember reading a story, I think it was done in the 1960s. It was an interview with a British World War I soldier. He had very good humor, but also he said that at some point, I think once they got hit with a gas attack, and so he put on his gas mask, but he couldn't breathe. So he went to, like, I think the medic, and the medic took a look at his, like, gas mask, and he was like, but no wonder you can't breathe. There's a fucking sharpnail piece in the fucking tube. It had actually blocked sharpnail from like, I don't know, an artillery blast or something, and just lodged himself into the mask so he couldn't breathe.
all soldiers armed with the Lee Enfield rifle?
Yes, so the Lee Enfield rifle in the trench, you've got 120 rounds held within your pouches.
Yeah. Or like, for example, I heard about this story in World War II where there was this guy on an aircraft carrier, I think it's the USS Enterprise or something, where he was sitting on a box of explosives, and his mate beside him would be like, can you get up? I don't think that's a good idea, sitting on a box of explosives during a battle. He got up, heard a big thunk, looked around, and the exact place where he was sitting, there was a big slap of sharpnail. And if he would have been sitting there 15 seconds later, he would have got a big chunk of sharpnail through his fucking brain. So he was extremely lucky.
And then the Lee Enfield rifle, you hold it, carries 10 rounds in the magazine.
You can actually fire those things pretty fast, I think, if you are good with the trigger.
And the soldiers are trained to fire 15 rounds in a minute at a man-sized target. Right. So it only holds 10, so you need to put 5 rounds in it halfway through that drill and that practice.
So that was what they were trained before they arrived in France and Belgium.
Yeah,
that was the expectation.
yeah, big expectation on marksmanship within the British Army at the time.
Yeah, like that.
Heavy
See?
rifle, isn't it?
It is,
A
yeah.
heavy and shorter than the rifles carried by the French and Germans.
Yes,
It does look
so
shorter,
they're
yeah.
used by infantry and cavalry because of the size. That's why it's short. That's why the short magazine, the Enfield, short is its size. Okay, so you've got 5 303 rounds in a charger clip. So, and these are carried within your pouches there.
As I understand it, keeping these clean was one of the highest priorities for
I can
soldiers
imagine, yeah.
Yeah, it
each
was.
day.
Yeah, I mean, you can imagine it's quite muddy and dirty in the trench, isn't it? If it's wet, if the rifle gets clogged with mud or gets rusty, it's not going to work properly. So one of our daily drills will be to clean the rifle before we do anything else. Before we eat, before we clean ourselves, the rifle will get clean first.
Wow.
Some soldiers resorted to
Before you
covering
clean yourself, okay.
rifle mechanism with an old sock to avoid
Old sock.
constant cleaning. And in general,
Wait, what did it
rifle
say?
mechanism with an old Some soldiers resorted to covering the rifle mechanism with an old
Huh? Oh, wait, now you're going back. I don't remember you talking. Oh, okay, yeah, don't worry, I knew. Okay.
stock to avoid constant cleaning. And in general, keeping gear in good condition was a lot harder when you lived in a glorified ditch.
No shit.
But trenches had still come a long way since 1914, when standing knee-deep in freezing water was the norm in some sections of the line.
Can imagine, yeah.
The trench boards, the duck boards sit on A-frames to keep them out of the water. You would have pumps to try and pump water out of the trenches.
Ooh.
I mean, there were occasions where it was too muddy. If the ground is too waterlogged, the trenches are built up above the ground surface. So some areas the trenches are actually above the surface, and you have the breastworks, the sandbags to give that protection.
Walking around in the trenches, you're still going to need waterproof boots, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so we've got sturdy reverse leather dubbing boots, brown in colour to match with the uniform, so it gives that element of camouflage. Then the bottom of the leg is protected by puttees. Puttees is a Hindustani word for bandages, because they're in effect
what?
9 foot. Puttees is a Hindustani word for bandages. It's protected by puttees. Puttees is a Hindustani word for bandages.
Puttees?
In effect, a 9 foot long piece of slightly stretchy woolen cloth.
I think Russian soldiers do that also.
So they wrap them around from the bottom of the boot up towards the knee, and that gives protection support to the lower leg, stops the trousers from getting caught on obstacles or hazards within the trench itself.
Yeah, I mean, we said it's not waterlogged. It's still obviously open to the elements. It's going to get lots of mud and dirt in here. Where are soldiers sleeping at the end of the day? Are they sleeping out in the elements?
We can have funk holes, so in front of us we've got...
Oh wait, these are the sleeping pits. I thought they were storage places.
It's a small bay where maybe 1 or 2 soldiers can sleep just to get out of the weather. On the fire step itself, they could get into a corner, wrap in the waterproof sheet you've got, although we have small dugouts or troop shelters as well. So behind us, you can see the corrugated steel troop shelter as well, which gives some protection against the elements or enemy fire or shrapnel that will come in.
All right, looks uncomfortable. I hope I'm not sleeping in that tonight.
Hopefully not. We'll find you somewhere warm tonight.
Ha!
Somehow I wasn't convinced I'd get much shut-eye, but there was no opportunity to dwell on that now. It was time to report to the firing bay for my first turn on sentry duty.
Grenade hand.
2 hours on sentry duty now.
That must be boring as fuck.
Attacks in the early afternoon were almost unheard of, but that didn't mean I'd be able to relax. Armed with a periscope and typically a wooden range card to help gauge distances to key landmarks, you need to keep a beady eye on any activity across no man's land. If you did spot any obvious targets, an invention known as a hyperscope allows you to fire a shot without exposing
I did hear about
yourself. Unfortunately, my bay didn't seem to have one, so the Germans were safe for now. For obvious reasons, no distractions were allowed while on sentry. The rules for those standing guard were taken seriously.
Upon your village's defense, the lives of your comrades as well as your own.
And could get very specific.
Huh?
Balaclava helmets are on no account to be worn by sentries in the trenches.
The fuck is a balaclava helmet?
They may be worn by men in the support and front lines, but only in such a way as the ears are not covered up and hearing interfered with. The steel helmet must always be worn.
Fair enough.
As time dragged on in the fire bay, the novelty soon wore off. For most soldiers, sentry duty was a desperately tedious task.
I can imagine.
While I kept watch, men not assigned to work details used this time for rest and recuperation. Writing letters home was encouraged and facilitated by the free Army Postal Service, albeit with a good deal of censorship.
No,
Personal diaries were frowned upon or even forbidden,
What?
owing to the risk that...
What the hell? Really? That's news to me. A balaclava helmet is similar to a ski mask or what motorcycle drivers wear under their helmet. Okay. I still can't picture it, but okay.
sensitive details could fall into enemy,
Bunch of cloth wrapped around your head. Ah, okay.
albeit with a good deal of censorship. Personal diaries were frowned upon or even forbidden, owing to the risk that sensitive details could fall into enemy hands. It was also possible to get access to fairly current newspapers in the trenches, though the soldiers of all armies famously published their own.
Oh?
British newspapers like the Wipers Times, the Gasper and the Dump were full of humour. French versions were often more cynical and downbeat.
Le Petit
Card
Journal.
games like Crown and Anchor were also incredibly popular, and officers would often turn a blind eye to gambling, even if it was officially banned.
Ha! Yeah.
And despite the image of an unflinching stiff upper lip, British Army officers were given extensive guidance on pastoral care for their men.
Must be brave news, boy, to bring the... Yeah.
Officers were given extensive guidance on pastoral care for their men. Being human and even offering advice on troubles at home were expected of good leaders.
Fair enough, yeah.
When my sentry shift finally ended, the one thing that could make me feel better was some food.
Huh.
But what exactly was on the menu?
Ooh. What is Koi HQ?
So, Robert,
I wonder what Koi HQ is.
lunchtime now, which is pretty welcome. What have we got to eat?
If you open up that ration bag, that's what's been issued to first section. We should have bread to divide between the three of us here.
Yeah, okay.
There's also a can of bully beef. Yeah,
Ooh.
crack that
Okay.
open. That's to go 3 ways. What else we got in there?
Cheese?
Condensed milk.
Or that?
To that. We're hoping to get a brew on. That will help us when we get a brew. At the moment, until the Germans calm down, we'll have to wait on that one a little bit.
Ooh, chocolate.
Gee, bit of a surprise, that's nice.
Should be an apple a piece as well. Chocolate, very welcome, bit of energy. Split that 3 ways as well as we go.
Apple
We can
each.
use that to graze on throughout the day till tea time.
Fantastic.
Tea time, of course.
Cooker for the purposes of making said tea. But again, keep that aside until we get the opportunity.
Is that like a gas canister for like the little gas thing?
Drank by Tommies in the First World War.
Necessary for morale. Have we got any jam as well? Hopefully
Ooh.
we've got a tin of jam, somebody said. Right,
Oh, there we go.
plum and apple, it's always plum and apple, never strawberry.
Plum and apple.
There should be as well, to divide between all 3 sections, there is items there.
Why
on
not
that
strawberries?
ammo box? I think we should have
Wait, what did it say?
sections. There is items there on top of that ammo box. I think we should have. What have we got there, Parker? Have a look.
Butter?
Oh, nice. A big block of butter.
That'll
Ooh,
help make that bread a bit
Fantastic.
moist, isn't it?
let's
cheese
cut up too.
Good.
Cheese.
Right. So bully beef, cheese. If you want to,
Cheese,
you can
I
put
was
the jam on
right.
as well, as you see fit.
Excellent.
So, knock yourself out. If you want to, you can put the jam on as well, as you see fit.
Excellent.
So,
So,
knock yourself out. Get
plen-
yourself some lunch, lads.
so plenty of
Yay.
calories for the First World War soldier.
A large proportion of your calories, frankly, comes from jam,
Jam. All right.
which is a lot of sugar,
Yeah,
and it's a fairly short burst energy, isn't it?
yeah.
Mm.
The calorific intake is great, but really, not of its long-term use. It's sort of short energy stuff for the large part.
I
Hence the
see.
chocolate and the jam.
Jam and cheese. Here we go.
Officially, each British soldier could expect 4,300 calories a
Ooh,
day,
that's a lot.
an amount we'd associate with modern endurance athletes. But as well as being nutritionally unbalanced, the reality was that supplies could easily be spoiled or interrupted.
Yeah.
During shortages, soldiers would make do with creative
Is this a church or a burial ground? Because like they're having lunch and there's a cross right there, so I'm assuming somebody died and they just buried them over there.
and bizarre combinations.
Wait, what?
Soldiers would make do with creative and bizarre combinations. Hardtack biscuits might be crushed up with water and jam to
Yep.
make porridge, or boiled and mixed up with ground turnip
Both,
and
yeah.
nettles to make a dough, which could then be baked
That's a big fucking bite, mate.
in a Tommy cooker. One
Tommy
important
cookers. That's like, I think that's the nickname of the Sherman tank in World War II also, right?
dough, which could then be baked using a Tommy cooker. One important rule all soldiers would learn was not to leave food lying around.
Oh, because of the rats.
A faint chittering in the trench around dusk would be the signal that the rats were waking up.
Oh boy.
One got used to many things, but I never overcame my horror of rats.
Ah.
They abounded in some parts, great loathsome beasts gorged with flesh. They pattered down the steps at the usual time, paused a moment and sneezed, and then got to work on our belongings.
The cruel reality was that rats multiplied in parts of the front line where conditions were already miserable. They were attracted to corpses primarily, but also any food that they could get access to. They were smelly, spread disease, and would give you a nasty fright if they clambered over you while you were sleeping. To fight back, rat hunts became a regular fixture for some units, with bayonets, clubs and boots being used to go after the rodents.
What about cats? Ooh.
Even if the rat hunts racked up impressive numbers, it was always a losing battle. In one account, soldiers drenched their own dugout in tar-like creosote to keep them at bay. It had no effect on the rats, but nearly suffocated the men.
Ooh.
In one sense, though, victory over the rodents...
Yeah, there is cats, okay.
It was a way to pass the time. Idle soldiers could be a danger to themselves and others, with horseplay leading to all manner of
That is true, yeah. That is true.
accidents.
Accidents.
Keeping them at the time. Idle soldiers could be a danger to themselves and others, with horseplay leading to all manner of accidents. Keeping the men busy with mundane tasks was the only effective remedy, and sure enough, every evening soldiers could expect to be called up to the parapet for one of the least popular parts of the day.
Going over the top?
So stand 2 was designed to keep the men alert at the most dangerous time of day, both at dusk just before darkness set in and at dawn just before sunrise. All men had to fix bayonets,
Ah, they're expecting...
stay at their posts for
Attacks.
around an hour until the danger passed.
The exact start time for Stand 2 was varied up by smart commanders to prevent the enemy predicting when you would gather. But with the evening temperature beginning to drop, standing still at the parapet for at least an hour until darkness fell was not particularly enjoyable.
No shit. I don't want to do that
There was
either.
also a time when nerves might become frayed and discipline stretched. The men were inevitably jumpier as the light faded, scanning for the smallest hint of movement. Edgy units facing each other across no man's land might start shooting at any moment.
There's little to see. Rough ground, the barbed wire entanglement, the vague line of the German trenches. If a flare goes up, it lights the whole place for about 30 seconds. It's generally followed by a good deal of rifle fire.
I can imagine, yeah.
You see the flash at the muzzle. If you hear a machine gun, you duck your head.
I hope you duck your head.
After a long while of nothing happening, it seemed like the Germans might be having the night off. But little known to us, the enemy had hatched a plan to clear us out before the day's end.
Oh? Oh! Pew pew.
Gas!
What?
Gas!
Uh-oh.
Even though my life didn't actually depend on it, it's incredible how a small amount of panic makes you fumble during
Oh,
such a
yes.
simple task.
Especially with
I
dyslexia.
couldn't drill this procedure too many times.
Oh.
And I was feeling lucky for the respirator for more than one reason. When the Germans had first launched chlorine gas onto Allied trenches
Yeah.
in 1915, cloth dipped in urine was suggested as an improvised face protection. By 1917, despite the development of even deadlier concoctions like mustard gas, defence procedures were second nature in well-drilled units. Soldiers were trained to listen for the distinctive hiss of gas cylinders. Alarms would sound, and machine gun teams would open up on the enemy trench when gas appeared, to prevent an infantry attack exploiting the disruption.
Ah.
For us, the danger dissipated as quickly as the green cloud, and it was back to stand to. If gas was the most feared weapon, it certainly wasn't the most deadly.
Yeah.
According to some British estimates, 58% of casualties at clearing stations were caused by artillery, 39% by bullets from rifles and machine guns, and 2% by grenades.
What? Why is grenades so low? Is it because you have to throw them?
A fraction of those on the front line would ever be involved in hand-to-hand fighting.
Wait, what did it say?
Fraction of those on the fronts, and 2% by grenades. Only a tiny fraction of those on the front line would ever be involved in hand-to-hand fighting.
Yeah.
Bayonets were rarely used in anger, accounting for less than 1% of battlefield wounds in one estimate. But they were still put to good use by the soldiers, used as toasting forks or pokers, both practices that were officially discouraged.
Toasting?
They could also make serviceable pegs for hanging clothes and keeping food away from rats.
Wait. What do they mean by toasting? Like actual toasting bread?
For the soldiers on sentry, where falling asleep was theoretically an offence that could carry the death penalty, the bayonet had another useful function.
Oh! Yeah, yeah, that is, yeah.
To stop you nodding off.
Won't be nodding off if you got a sword on your chin.
While I was starting to crave a comfortable lie down, sleep was a distant prospect. For a start, 1 in 3 soldiers would have to serve as sentries during the night instead of 1 in 10. Other work would also begin in earnest under the
What is that? What is that?
cover of darkness.
It's like a dangerous thing to do. Yeah, but, you know.
Serve as sentries during the night instead of 1 in 10. Other work would also begin in earnest under the cover of darkness. Wiring parties would be sent out to check defences, and telephone sections might be required to lay cables. If you were really unlucky, your officer might send out patrols with the intention of dominating no man's land. It was also the time that new trenches were dug, including L or T-shaped ditches known as saps, which extended out towards the enemy lines, offering a forward position for future attacks.
Ooh.
This was my next assignment.
I can't see shit.
If I could get there.
You're digging, it's just down there. He's just here. He's just replacing his mighty weapon.
Once you foot in that, there's quite a few steps.
Yeah, as you come down there, there's a fairly hefty step. So just use the sides of the trench to hold on to as well.
About 12 o'clock on New Year's Eve, I was sleeping with some others. So you see, I dug the old year out and the new year in. Then I went out on outpost duty the rest of the night. It tires you out being awake night and day for several nights at a stretch.
Wait a minute. Is that a gas lamp or electric? Probably would have been a gas lamp back then, right?
Digging or repairing trench networks often threw up some nasty surprises.
Oh?
So it wasn't unheard of for Tommies digging out new funk holes to find mangled bodies buried in layers into the embankment of the trench.
Yeah. Oh, okay, I was wondering, because I was like, I know electricity existed, obviously, but...
In the later years of the war, it was possible for soldiers digging to come across old and forgotten trench networks beneath the one they were living in. One soldier described it as being like fighting on top of an archaeological site.
Ha!
According to standard tables of the time, it took a man 3 minutes to dig a cubic foot of earth.
Yeah, I see. I can imagine that it would be, yeah, because it is a reenactment. Like, for example, I would think that the gas masks don't actually have asbestos now, even if they're recreations, for obvious reasons.
And 6 hours to dig a trench he could stand in. That seemed a little optimistic. Struggling to hack through rocks and tree roots, the war would probably be over before our sap was finished. After a stint with the pick and shovel, I did at least have a few hours to get some rest, or at least something resembling it. Hot stew and a cup of tea made for a comforting evening meal before I attempted to doze off, something our camera crew missed as they tried to grab a stretch of sleep in a nearby porter cabin. But the webbing, with its many buckles and pouches, had to be kept on in the frontline trench, meaning something metal was likely to be digging into you however you tried to lie down. Having gotten very little meaningful sleep, I was back on sentry duty at 2 a.m.
In about every third bay, there are 2 sentries standing on the fire step and looking over the parapet. At the corners of the bays, there are often glowing braziers, and men sleeping around them or half asleep. And you pass the entrance to the dugouts and hear men murmuring inside, and hot charcoal fumes come out.
It's the middle of the night, about 2 a.m, and I'm back on sentry duty for the next hour. Now, I'd much rather be in bed, but it is interesting how your senses become heightened in the dark. So listening was considered just as important as looking, particularly during the darkest hours before dawn. That wasn't just for enemy raids, but also trenches were ordered to be silent at some points so you could listen out for enemy mining activity happening under the ground.
Ooh, like medieval sieges.
The real possibility of trench raids was enough to keep soldiers on their toes. These attacks, carried out by small and mobile squads of riflemen and bomb carriers, often had the objective...
Is there... I was about to say that there are stormtroopers, but is there an actual video footage of the MP-18? Like the submachine gun? Like the first machine gun ever? Because I know they used it towards the end of the war, the Germans. So I'm wondering if there's actual footage of it, or if it's just like photographs. Or some of your senses don't work as much. Yeah, okay, that's why, like, for example, deaf people can see very well, or vice versa, yeah.
Bringing back a live prisoner for interrogation, but would also leave many dead. For most nights, though, you'd be alone with your own thoughts, disoriented by strangely moving shapes in the dark. You were typically obliged to fire at any suspicious target that presented itself. Not easy when every tree shadow was morphing into a potential threat.
Wait, what did they say?
Shadow, any suspicious target that presented itself. Not easy when every tree shadow was morphing into a potential threat. With the cold already beginning to bite, I was eventually relieved from sentry duty and went to find somewhere else to lie down. Unfortunately, no dugouts were available.
God damn it. Ooh.
So it's now about 6:30. Did not get very much sleep last night. It was very, very cold. And I slept down here. I was very grateful to have this greatcoat. I laid down here.
Ugh.
I was just about able to cover myself if I curled up into a ball
Yes, yes, it's a subathon. I'm still streaming.
Pretty grim.
Yeah.
As you can probably tell, I was happy I'd only need to do this once.
Heh.
I reminded myself that the Indian Corps arriving in the trenches during the brutal winter.
Wait, hang on.
Reminded myself that
What is that with all the little holes?
the Indian Corps.
Oh wait, is it a fire pit? Yeah, you could make a fire. Is that wood?
Arriving in the trenches during the brutal winter of 1914 had been dressed for the subcontinent and hadn't received proper warm clothing for weeks.
Oh.
If I was a bit cold, they would have considered my setup a luxury. Beginning to thaw out in the morning sun, I'm sure the section would have benefited from some gentle movement to get the blood pumping. Instead, there was at least another hour of Stand 2.
Oh.
Stand 2 at dawn was theoretically less dangerous than at dusk, unless there was thick fog to encourage an attack. Nevertheless, it was a chance for officers to assess the morale and condition of troops after a grueling night.
Yeah.
By modern standards, it wasn't the healthiest start to the day. Smoking was so common that not lighting up in the morning would have marked you out as an oddball. And the appearance of the daily rum ration was something everyone looked forward to.
Oh, rum, 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 go, go, yeah!
70 millilitres was hardly enough to get you drunk, but on an empty stomach, it certainly had a warming effect. And the troops would be livid if it didn't turn up.
Wait, how much is 70 milliliters? Well, whatever.
They have stopped the men's rum ration.
Oh no!
Lots of a blithering lot of fools made complaints about the amount of rum being sent out to India.
What?
I don't believe half the men could have existed without it all through the winter. And even now it's awfully cold standing to at daybreak.
I didn't know they got rum though. I thought only the Navy did that.
SRD marked on army rum jars. The letters SRD marked on army rum jars stood for Supply Reserve Depot, but soldiers joked that the initials were better interpreted as seldom reaches destination or soon runs dry. If the arrival of alcohol was viewed as unpredictable, then the soldiers could usually rely on another terrifying fixture of their daily routine.
Oh? Is that a Luger? Why is there a Luger? Well, maybe it's captured. I don't know. No, wait, that's not a Luger. Well, I don't know.
A brief but devastating artillery bombardment from both sides, often accompanied by machine gun and rifle fire, became something of a dawn ritual.
Ah.
It was often joked that this morning barrage was an extra rum ration for gun crews, helping them to loosen up for the day. To the infantry suffering in the trenches, it was known as the morning hate.
Experienced soldiers of the First World War learned to recognise the sound of different shells
Oh.
and the noise they made as they arced towards you. Some shrieked, others whistled. The biggest was said to sound like trains passing by.
Yeah, I heard about
The
that.
smallest might sound like champagne corks popping. In any case, the men would have been grateful for recesses built into the side of the trench facing the enemy, often known as
Recesses?
funk holes.
What are recesses? For me, recess is the time that kids go outside at school. Unless it means a break or like a sort of like bulge outward that it can hide in, maybe? Or that, yeah.
Being under heavy bombardment was the greatest trial for any soldier, but the intensity varied according to where you were fighting and when. On an average day, the morning hate might only last a short period, before quickly dying away at around 8 o'clock, and that was with good reason. An unwritten gentleman's agreement that breakfast time was...
Yes. The soldier from World War I that I mentioned earlier in the 1960s mentioned that, where at some point I think the artillery was bombarding both sides they were bombarding both sides, supply trains or supply lines rather, and they both ended up fucking starving to death. So they were like, okay, if you don't hit ours, we won't hit yours. And they're like, okay. So that was pretty much what happened, I think.
Rarely disturbed along the front. And gentleman's agreement meant breakfast time was rarely disturbed along the front, part of a live and let live pattern that had emerged after years of contact. Bacon was on the menu for us. It was particularly welcome after a cold and miserable night on the duck
Bacon!
boards.
I like bacon.
Next up, I was
Ian Sugar
hoping
Box.
for a hot drink.
But here's the trick. Do
Huh?
not smother the whole circle.
What?
Otherwise, guess what happens? You put the fire out.
Wait, what?
Circle.
Oh, because it'll make the fire go out. Okay.
Otherwise, guess what happens? You put the fire out.
Yeah.
Goes the Dixie can down by sort of like the second fire bay.
Time
They
to make
should
some
have the
tea.
makings. But your first priority is to get some hot water to play with.
Yeah.
My plans for a hot cuppa were met with lukewarm disappointment.
Oh.
Clearly something to work on if I wanted to make it as a British Tommy. It's no exaggeration to say that most of the infantry's liquid intake did come from tea. Boiled water was considered safest, and tea was often kept in canteens to be drank cold later. Typically, the last few swigs of the morning brew were reserved as shaving water.
Okay.
As well as keeping up appearances, shaving was mandated so soldiers' skin formed a tight seal with gas masks, though mustaches were permitted and even encouraged. Bathing was a different matter and could only be done away from the lines, where soldiers would
That's
attempt
so
to
many
different
fucking
matter,
wires.
and could only be done away from the lines, where soldiers would attempt to remove layers of dirt, not to mention lice. As already mentioned, there were no compromises when it came to keeping weapons clean. You wouldn't want to be the man singled out at the daily inspection for having a dirty rifle.
The company commander sets out to inspect his lines, finding, if he knows his job, a cheery word for all and sundry, and receiving often better than he gives, taking stock of everything, including slackers, and generally tuning up for the day.
Okay.
Despite feeling worse for wear, I'd better put my best face on. We just heard that on top of the usual inspection, a medical officer was arriving to assess the section's condition. A familiar face for anyone who's watched our episode on World War I cavalry.
Ah, yes.
Medical officers would be looking for more than obvious wounds and illness. Innocuous injuries caused by shovels, barbed wire or broken duckboards could easily become infected in the trench environment.
Ooh, that sounds brutal.
Leading to
That sounds brutal here.
possible tetanus or blood poisoning. They'd be keen to know about fungal infections, especially bad lice infestations, dental problems, diarrhea, and signs of acute psychological strain. The list went on, of
Basically
course,
everything.
and a few men of the section had been picked out for foot inspection.
By 1917,
They have
trench
better
foot
feet
had
than
largely
me.
been eradicated in the British Army.
Wait,
And
what
that
did
was
they
down-
say?
By 1917, trench foot had largely been eradicated
Ooh.
in the British Army, and that was down to some practical and some unusual measures. So one soldier of the Royal Welsh Fusiliers describes how the cooks in his unit would keep
Ah, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
all the grease from food preparation and dole it out to the men.
Wait,
Armed with
what?
this lard-like substance, he says that after stand 2 each morning, the men would rub each other's feet vigorously with it.
How does that prevent trench foot, though?
In fact, by 1917, trench foot was so rare that it was regarded as a disciplinary matter, adding insult to injury for affected soldiers. A clean pair of socks delivered every day with rations helped, as did thigh-length trench waders and gum boots if flooding did occur. After being cleared by the medical officer, normal business in the trenches resumed.
Why are they putting salt though? Ah, it dries it out. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Other than the odd gun blowing its nose to keep you on edge, mid-morning was the time soldiers would rest, and my stint in the front line was coming to an end.
Oh no. Or oh
It gave me
god.
some time to think about what I'd learned from 24 hours in the trenches. Complaints about the uncomfortable conditions and the cold are far more prevalent in contemporary letters than references to the terrors of combat. Some soldiers might endure months or even years on the front without ever being involved in serious fighting. Nevertheless, 86% of casualties during the war fell on the infantry. At any moment, an existence of drudgery, camaraderie and routine might be cut brutally short.
Yeah. Oh?
Our platoon was 22 strong, including the officer, and during the bombardment we had 8 put out in 10 minutes.
Holy fuck.
There were no dugouts of any description there, so you can imagine what it was like to stand there for 4 nights. We hoped the weather would be alright so we could go over and get it done with, but it was not to be. The last time we came out was for 48 hours rest, then in again and over. But the troops were in such a bad condition that the doctor sent in a report saying we were not fit for the line.
So after 24 hours in the trench, I am feeling very tired. Still quite cold. Full. Plenty of food going around, so that's one thing not to complain about. But I'm certainly ready to get out of here. Now, one thing that's often forgotten is that British soldiers wouldn't have spent too long in the trenches, maybe 3 days to a week on average before being rotated out. That was one of the great advantages of the British Army system at the time. There were extreme cases, like during the Somme, for example, where they would spend much longer in the teeth of the enemy, but that was the exception rather than the rule.
I can imagine, yeah.
One thing we should also remember is that the greatest periods of human loss during the First World War were at the beginning in 1914 and right at the end in 1918, during periods of open warfare. Trenches, despite the image that we might have, saved lives from the terrible mechanized,
I mean, yeah, that's why they were made.
of the early 20th century. But for the average soldier, survival would have been something quite different. It would have been your daily rum ration, a slice of bacon, being warmed by the sun in the morning after a cold night's sleep. I've managed 24 hours, but how they managed years in some cases, I don't know.
I don't know either.
Thanks again to the Centre for Experimental Military Archaeology, the Warwick's 14 to 18 Living History Group, Sturmbataillon 10 and Richard Townsley for making this episode possible.
Nice.
Please subscribe to the channel, like and comment on this video to let us know what you think, and if you'd like to support our work, you can donate the cost of a coffee at our Ko-fi link.
Alright, okay. Nice. I liked it.